You're not lost. You're just relocating, finding the safe distance required to face the things that haunt us. There's this idea we have about horses that they're simply flight animals, hardwired to disappear the second things get difficult. It's an easy mistake to make when you look at them. Their whole architecture is built for the exit. The long legs, the powerful haunches, those wide set eyes that pull in nearly 360 degrees of the horizon. Everything about a horse says, go. But if you watch them closely, you'll see that their running is rarely about the escape. The horse isn't trying to vanish, it's just relocating to a safer distance to get a better view. The horse sprints away from a potential threat to create enough space to get a better look at it. It's creating a buffer, some room to turn around and actually see what's arrived in their field of view and sensory perception. Once the horse has gained some safe ground for study, it stops and turns around toward the threat. It faces it. The horse isn't trying to disappear from danger, it's trying to get perspective. We are wired the same way. Deep in the oldest parts of our nervous system, we have the same instinct, not just to flee, but to relocate, reorient, and then face what frightens us. The turn is built into our biology. Looking back gives us the information we need to assess, gain perspective, and make a choice. The predicament for humans these days is that everything feels like a threat, and we never find a safe enough distance to pause and turn around. Think about what your nervous system is asked to process before you even get out of bed in the morning. Your phone lights up with news that is specifically designed to trigger your threat response. Your body doesn't know the difference between a headline and a predator. It reads or watches something that feels dangerous, and you begin to be flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, the ancient chemistry that says, move. And before that signal can complete its cycle and you can sprint off to a safe distance and turn around and look, there's another headline, another notification, another thing to be afraid of, or angry about, or anxious over. We are running all day long, and none of it gets us anywhere. We think we're continuously tired because we're busy, and sometimes that's true. But a lot of us are tired the way a horse would be tired if it spent 12 hours bolting and never once got to stop, create some distance, and turn around. It's not the running that depletes us, but the running without resolution, fleeing something that we never have the opportunity to study or understand. Like the horses, we are a species designed to assess threats rather than just accumulating them. Meanwhile, as if this mountain of accumulation weren't enough, the world pathologizes the act of running itself. It tells us to stay put, to suck it up. We have been taught to fear our own fear. So when it shows up, that pull, that unease, that deep cellular knowing that something is wrong or over or no longer true, we don't follow it. We medicate it, scroll past it, schedule it, or worse, judge ourselves for feeling it at all. We treat the signal like it's the problem. Somewhere along the way, we learn to mistrust the very instinct meant to guide us, while we praise our disconnection as a strength. There's a line that's loosely attributed to Rumi, and whether he wrote it exactly, given the numerous translations, isn't the point. I think I came across it in a Coleman Barks translation back in the day. The instruction goes something like this: if you're walking through a graveyard and you see a ghost, don't run away from it, run toward it. Rumi is not telling us to be reckless. It's not some macho spiritual instruction to white knuckle your way into the thing that terrifies you before you're ready to act. That's not courage. That's a different kind of running with your eyes closed and your jaw clenched. What it's actually saying is something more like what the horse already knows. You need the distance first. You need the sprint, the space it creates, the breath it gives back to you, the way it lets the landscape meld into something you can actually see. Because from 10 feet away, a shadow in a graveyard is just a shadow in a graveyard. But from 100 feet, with your heart rate coming down and your eyes adjusting, you start to see the whole landscape. You can see where the ghost is standing and what's behind it, beside it. You can see if the shadow was a mirage in the graveyard. When you turn to look, you might realize it wasn't a ghost at all. Or maybe it was. At least you'll know. Getting some distance and then turning to look doesn't just calm you down. It also helps you see things more clearly. It changes what is visible. Once you can see through the context and beyond panic, you can move toward the ghost. Your fear is a signal. The distance is the lens. And what you see through that lens, once you finally stop and turn and look, is almost never what you thought you were running from. Most spiritual traditions have a version of this teaching, not the reckless one of ignoring your fear and charging in, but the patient one. Create some space and allow the full picture to come into focus. Then walk toward what the fear was pointing at. Because fear is always pointing somewhere. If my words help you find your turning point, consider becoming a free or paid subscriber to Stable Roots. Your support does more than just keep these essays landing in your inbox. Every cent goes back directly into the soil and the sanctuary of our farm. By subscribing, you're helping us maintain a physical space where both horses and humans can find the distance they need to stop running, turn around, and finally see their truth. Join our community and keep the gates open. I want to say something about the people who leave. Years ago, I was on a plane headed to Istanbul. I'd messed up the check-in, and as a result, my soon-to-be ex-husband was seated rows behind me. Somewhere over Spain or Bulgaria, I was flooded with the distinct sense that an angel, a guardian, a protector, something was very close to me. Terrified that the plane was going to crash, I started bargaining with the universe. What I couldn't understand until I had time and distance was that the airplane would be fine, but life as I knew it was about to crash and burn. Within a week, my husband would leave me, and I'd be forced to move into my worst fear at the time, running a busy traditional horse farm by myself. I would have never made the choice to leave him on my own. Same for losing our old farm last year. I would never have chosen to leave the farm I rebuilt and modeled in a new way of horsemanship on my own after the ex husband left. That farm was my identity and my home, my only security. Losing it had become my worst fear. The ex's leaving created space I never would have made on my own to build a very different sort of experience for horses and humans. Also, having no choice but to leave our old farm led me to a farm and location that are more ideally suited to the work of tending humans, helping them find some distance from their fears and helping them launch forward into new and old paths. This gives me more empathy for the people who walk out of a marriage that looked fine from the outside, for those who quit their jobs with good salaries and respectable titles, and for those who move away from the city where everyone they know still lives. I think about the people who stop going to the church they grew up in, or in the friendship they've had since college, or step away from a family role they've played for 30 years. We have a word for these people, several words actually. We call them lost, we call them going through something, we call them scared. We say they're running away, as if running away were a diagnosis, a character flaw, a verdict on their maturity, commitment, or faith. But watch them more carefully. Watch what happens in the year or 2 or 5 after leaving, and watch what happens to all the people they leave in their wake. They end up somewhere that looks remarkably like where they were supposed to always be. They find work that fits them, relationships that don't require them to be smaller, and places that feel finally like home. They look back at the thing they fled and they say, I didn't know that's what I was leaving, but I knew I had to go. The horse knows something that is immensely hard for people to understand. The body moves before clarity and choices come into focus. Don't get me wrong, this is not an argument for impulsivity. It's not a romantic defense of every person who's ever walked out a door. I know what that feels like. I've lived on both sides of the fleeing. But there are two very different kinds of running, and we do each other a disservice when we lump all the motives for running together. The first kind of running is pure flight, a permanent sprint from the discomfort of the slow, necessary work of being in relationship with other humans who will inevitably disappoint you. This kind of running isn't the horse creating space to see clearly. It's the horse that never stops, blind fear barreling toward extinction. And if that's your pattern, if every hard conversation becomes a reason to leave, if every season of difficulty becomes a reason to blow up what you've built, then your running is a problem and a problem for everyone around you. Chronic flight is a type of violence. It leaves wreckage. It damages the people who trust you. Constant running is abusive to everyone in its wake. The second kind of running can look identical from the outside, but the difference is in what's happening underneath the flight. This person is running like a horse, gaining distance to see the whole landscape instead of just the thing that frightened them. The initial chaos might look identical to the first type, and it might feel the same to everyone watching, but something is different in the motion's quality. It has a destination. After running, the person stops. The distance has done its work, and they're free to do the most courageous thing of all: turn around and look back at what they fled. From that vantage, the decision to stay or go or return or continue forward comes from the clearest view they've ever had of their own life. Information arrives when we access our deep cellular knowing that something is wrong or over or no longer true. You know the feeling of this, the persistent pull in a direction you can't fully explain. It's the opposite of avoidance because you're being drawn to something by the pull of your resistance. That's not running scared. That's a horse gaining knowledge from a distance. Throughout it all, the running is just a tool. The part that matters most, thank you, horses, usually gets lost in our human need for drama and labeling. We skip over the wisdom in our haste to celebrate the fleeing or condemn it as something wrong. The horse turns around. After the sprint, when the distance is created and the breathing slows and the body starts to regulate, the horse turns around and faces what it fled. They might return to where they were standing, or they may not. The whole point is that they turn to look. That process allows them to gather information rather than accumulate more fear. Humans almost never do this. We run and immediately try to stop ourselves from running, which is exhausting. In either case, we rarely stop and slowly turn around and ask, what was that actually? What was I so afraid of? What was I running toward without knowing it? Meaning lives in regarding our problems from a different point of view. By turning to look, you receive enough distance to finally see the whole shape of a thing, whatever your thing is. You may see that your fear is real and that leaving is the right choice. You may find that the life you're building in the new direction is already better than what you left behind. More often than not, what you see is more complicated, like you were running from something true as well as towards something true. And both things happened at once, and both things have value. And sometimes what you see is that you sprinted away from something that wasn't actually a threat, and maybe it's worth finding your way back. The turn gives you the information. The running without the turning just gives you distance. Let me tell you about something I run from that I only understand in the turning. I'm good at running from stillness. I'm good at motion and making things happen. I can fill a calendar like it's art or a coloring book. Forward momentum comes super easily to me. And for a long time, I identified solely with my drive and ambition. I was getting things done, and sometimes that was true. But the stillness kept coming back for me. It would catch me in the middle of the night or in the 10-minute gap between one thing and the next, or on the rare Sunday afternoon when nothing was scheduled. And when it caught up, it didn't feel peaceful. It felt like a threat. My nervous system would fire up the same way it does when something is actually wrong. My mind would reach for something, a task, a screen, a productive thing to occupy my hands. I was a flight animal, and the thing I was fleeing was my own interior. I didn't understand any of this while I was running. I could only see it when I was finally forced to stop. When I created some distance from the noise, I nervously turned back to see what had been chasing me. What I found behind me, dogging my heels, was questions. It wasn't a threat after all. It was real, deep questions, the kind that can reorganize your life if you let them. The questions had been chasing me for years, trying to get my attention. It wasn't a problem, it was a gift. So here's what I want to offer as simply as I can say it. You might be running right now, moving away from something or towards something. You might be in that blurry, terrifying in between place where you've left one shore and can't quite see the other one yet. And the world, the people around you, maybe even the voice in your own head, is calling that fear and weakness. But the horse knows better, and so do you. The sprint is not the problem. The sprint is the first half of the move. The problem is when we run forever without stopping to turn around and look, when we keep accumulating distance without ever gathering meaning. You were built to feel the threat and move, to create space and breathe. In that pause, you're also built to do the hardest, bravest thing, turning back to look. In that pause, you can take an honest assessment of your perceived threat and ask, what is this? What am I moving toward? What does the fear actually point toward? Because it's pointing somewhere. It's always pointing somewhere. Deep in the wordless animal intelligence built by a million years of surviving, the horse knows that the sprint is just the beginning and that when they turn back, they can find the facts. Beyond the years of humans mislabeling their reasons, the horse knows that running scared and running towards something are often the same exact move. You're not lost. You're relocating. You're not falling apart. You're getting distance. You're not running away. You're almost to the place where you can finally turn around and see. I'll leave you with this. The horse sprints, creates distance, turns, and looks. Then the horse makes a choice. The turn is the whole thing, and sometimes you need someone to stand beside you while you make it. someone with enough distance from your story to help you see its shape, someone who can hold the wider view while you catch your breath. That's the work I do, and I've recently redesigned my personal corner of the internet to create a new home that truly reflects the nature of my work beyond the farm and also part of it. It's easy for my calling to get lost in the constant movement of the farm, so redesigning my personal website gave me the distance I needed to find some clarity, just like the core of the work itself. If you're somewhere in the middle of a sprint right now, if you're tired of running but not sure how to turn around, come find me. We'll get you to a place where the ghost makes sense, where the graveyard has a gate, and where the landscape finally shows you what it's been trying to say all along. Love, Kim.